here in front of the Israeli School, Universal Practical Knowledge, the Philadelphia Division, here at 3226 Cheltenham Avenue in Philadelphia. We're standing in front of the school right now, getting a description of the 12 tribe sign that's been painted by one of the brothers that was in the school: Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, and Issachar. Those are the 12 tribes of Israel.
Shalom. Shalom. You've been waiting for this day, so this day has finally come. A lot of you have been wondering where this knowledge that you've been hearing is coming from, and the powerful truth that you've been hearing, how this was established. Well, we finally were able to arrange for the priests to come down from New York and spend some time with us. And I'd like to introduce them if I can. These are some great brothers. We're very glad to have them with us. We want to make them feel as warm as possible, because this is their work and the extension of their work and what they've laid down some time ago. I'd like to introduce, first of all, priest and Sixth Shield General, fourth in command in the nation of Israel, Lahab. I'd like to salute this brother. March up. Barak. Yeshabim, which means sit. And I'm going to turn it over now to Priest General Lahab.
Water, brother. I'd like to say this, starting off, we're very impressed at your school here, and we're very impressed to see that the brothers and sisters in Philadelphia think enough of the Most High and the Bible and the truth and your nationality to be a part of this, because most of the brothers and sisters are running from the truth.
All right, Shalom Israel. Salaki, just checking my sound. Test. All right, sound it looks like the sound's Tawab. All right. If anybody sees that my sound is messed up, just put a 1 in the chat. All right, but Shalom, Yahba Shimei Shabbat to the brothers. Yahweh Shamar Alathah Bashim Shad to all the sisters. All right, shout out to everybody in the chat, Carolyn Radsville, Nashad Gabar. All right, what's going on, brother? All right, good to see you always in class. Carolyn Radsville, always good to see you in class. Okay, these classes are everything for us. All right, we got the Lord's Passover coming up. Okay, the Lord's Passover coming up. And again, it's very important that we're all down there. I'm going to start off this class just going over a couple scriptures. Okay. All right, we can let's jump right into it just on this topic, because okay, for everybody that doesn't know, All right, we got the Lord's Passover coming up on April 4th. Okay, April 4th is the Lord's Passover. All right, and it's very important that all of us get down there. Let me start off in the book of Proverbs. Let me pull this up. We're going to look up what the beginning of wisdom is. Okay. Wisdom is very important for Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous. Okay. Matter of fact, let me start off in this scripture: stability of the times. Okay, we're gonna go over a couple scriptures, and then we'll get into the class topic. All right. So if we jump to the book of Isaiah, chapter 33 and verse 6. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen. Share my screen so everybody can follow along with me. All right. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 33 and verse 6. Okay. Isaiah 33 and verse 6 says, "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times." Okay. Stability of thy times is so important at a time where everything is so unstable. You know what I mean? We just went through, look at what COVID did to the nation of North America. You know what I mean? Not just North America, around the world. You know what I mean? I remember reading different news articles that was speaking on, how many people were dying every day from COVID. I think that was over in Portugal or Spain. Every day people were just dropping dead. You know what I mean? Like COVID had devastated this earth. You know what I mean? Came over to North America, and we saw the entire nation, you know what I mean, change just at the blink of an eye. You know what I mean? Gas prices going up, wood prices going up. You know what I mean? Grocery stores having everything empty off the shelves. People couldn't find diapers and toilet paper. It seemed like the world was going crazy. You know what I mean? And here we are still in 2026. The world is going crazy. You know what I mean? You see what's these constant wars and rumors of wars. You see Iran and Israel, Afghanistan, Iraq, you know what I mean? America, Venezuela, all these different wars, Russia and Ukraine, you know what I mean? Just nonstop wars. This whole earth is in disarray right now. You know what I mean? We're living in a time where things are extremely unstable. You know what I mean? You don't know if you're gonna wake up tomorrow and have the ability to go to a gas station. You know what I mean? People are stocking up on food, as they should be. You know what I mean? Because this time is a very unstable time. We don't know what can happen, day to day. Iran could send a bomb over to America and change your everyday life in the blink of an eye. You know what I mean? You had Russia was just flying spy planes over America just to see how close they could get to America's airspace. You know what I mean? Like, this time is a very unstable time. And Isaiah, the Most High through Isaiah said, "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times," meaning that the Most High is telling you that you can have stability. You can have stability, but that comes from wisdom and knowledge. Okay, Thawada Carolyn, you know what I mean, letting me know the sounds Tawab. So, like, the Most High is telling us that during this time we can have stability. You look at brothers and sisters in the ISUPK, we're not worried about a damn thing. You know what I mean? I had family members moving back to Jamaica because they didn't know, they were scared of the war between Ukraine and Russia. They thought that they were going to get bombed over here in North America. So they ran to Jamaica thinking that they would find safety. I'm not making this up. So scared of what's going on with COVID and these plagues around the world, they moved to Jamaica, picked up and left their everyday life to go back home to Jamaica, where they thought that they would have stability. And then what happened a couple months ago? Jamaica got hit by one of the worst hurricanes, you know what I mean, since the late 1800s. Devastated Jamaica, getting hit by earthquake after earthquake. You know what I mean? Right after the hurricanes, Jamaica was not your stability. The Most High told us wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. You know what I mean? And in the ISUPK, we have nothing but stability. We read this Bible, we learn the wisdom and knowledge that the Most High wanted us to learn, and we have nothing but stability. I remember watching all the Christian churches that closed their doors during COVID, shut down their services because they didn't want to be infected by COVID. What did you see the ISUPK do? We held classes like regular schedule. Nothing changed, literally. Classes from Sunday to Saturday. Every day, classes going up. Hundreds of classes all over North America going up, all over the UK, all over the Caribbean islands. We didn't shut down. We had stability. We were not worried. We had our Passover down in Houston. Everybody gathered together. We didn't stop doing what the Lord required us to do. We have stability in the ISUPK. And the Most High told us how to get it. It says, and strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord is his treasure. You understand? You gain this treasure, this wisdom, this knowledge when you obey the Most High. Which is the next verse I wanted to jump into in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 10. All right, let me go there. Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 10. I'll make that bigger. Proverbs 9 and verse 10 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. This is the beginning of wisdom. This is how you begin to have wisdom, to have knowledge, is when you fear the Most High. When you start to obey him, when you start to, fear what it is he's going to do if you disobey him, that's the beginning of wisdom. So many times people want to ask, why should I keep the Passover? Why should I stop eating pork? Why should I obey my husband? And they want the understanding before they obey him, before fearing what the Lord is going to do to you. The scriptures say, even though, I'm paraphrasing, in Ecclesiastes, it speaks on the sinner who is quick to do evil because punishment doesn't come swiftly, because punishment isn't executed speedily by the Most High. People think they can get away with sinning. That's what they believe. It says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I never asked why I shouldn't eat pork. I just knew the Most High told me to do it. 5 years later, I found out that all this time eating pork bacon is the reason that people have cancer. Why the Most High told us to fear him. Because when you obey what it is he says, you will be smart. You won't unalive your baby in an abortion clinic. You won't tell lies to your children about Easter's bunnies laying eggs. You know what I mean? All the nonsense that we teach our children in the world over Christmas, Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving, birthdays. All the nonsense and the lies that we've always taught, we would not do that if we feared the Most High. It's such an important thing. Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because, let me jump to one more verse where it says, I think that's in the book of Colossians. See where I'm going. We go to the book of Romans chapter 3 and 4. We have to understand that the Lord's wisdom and the Lord's knowledge is so much better than us. So much better than, you know what I mean, anything that we ever thought on this earth. It says in the Bible, the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God. The wisdom of this world, there was a time where doctors were telling pregnant women it was safe to smoke cigarettes. Can you imagine that? That's just a couple decades ago. You're a pregnant woman and the doctor is telling you that smoking cigarettes is safe to do. It's a safe thing. Doctors were telling you that crack cocaine was not addictive. That's why God said the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God. It's foolish. If you try to find a reason why it's okay to eat pork, God is looking at you like you're a fool. You try to find a reason why it's okay to be a whore, God is looking at you like you're a fool. Scriptures say you turn your daughter, into whoredom. You give a daughter over to whoredom, that you will pollute the land. That was knowledge given to us thousands of years ago. Look at how polluted North America is. Polluted from all the strip clubs. Polluted from all the sex workers. All the men spending money to sleep with women who have been molested as a child. Do you understand how destructive that is? Look at society today. Just look at it. Just look at the fruits of society and everything that it's bared in this kingdom. Why God said the foolishness of this world is foolishness to God. The wisdom of the world is foolishness to God. People telling you you can smoke cigarettes while you're pregnant, and now there's some death warning on the back of every single cigarette package that you buy. Telling your dumbass that you're gonna die if you smoke cigarettes. Wisdom of this world is foolish. That's why Paul said, God forbid, yea, let God be true, but every man a liar. Let God be true, but every man a liar. And why I wanted to kind of preface these scriptures for this topic is because one of the things that when you're out in the world, you might hear people say is that the Israelites did not exist, that the nation of Israel was not real, that a mass exodus out of Egypt was not real. It never happened. Shout out Sister Kwamada, Yahweh Shamar, Alatha Bashim Shah, the water for tuning in, sis. Everybody make sure you get those likes up. Share the class, Baba Kasha. Share the class, get it to our brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? So that they can get this knowledge. So that they can, Lord allow, get some information that will help them make it to the Passover. If you've been watching the ISUPK at all, you may have heard of something called the Passover demon. The Passover demon, where you think in your mind that there is some reason or some excuse that is big enough to say why you should not be at the Lord's Passover this year. Passover demon is a demon that, you hear in your mind convincing you that you do not have to obey God, that you do not have to get to the Passover. That's what the Passover demon is. It's going to tell you that, your father is in the hospital right now, and he's battling cancer because he's been eating pork his entire life, and you have to go see your dad instead of making it to the Passover. That is a Passover demon. Sister in the chat said, my mom said back in the day, doctors didn't tell women about drinking alcohol or cigarettes, and there were no labels on those things. Are you saying, sis, that doctors did not tell women to smoke cigarettes? I'm not clearly understanding what you're saying. My mom said back in the day, doctors didn't tell women about drinking alcohol or cigarettes. Are you saying doctors didn't advise women not to do these things? I think that sounds more like what you're saying. The doctors did not tell women that they should not drink alcohol or cigarettes. Let me know if I got it right, sis, because if that's what you're saying, you're absolutely right, especially in the sense of when it comes to doctors for Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous, we have to fight so hard with the doctors to get, medical attention, for lack of a better word. Right? Damn right, sis. Like, you look at the amount of, Black women who are dying at an alarming rate after giving birth simply because they're not receiving medical attention from nurses. I think the percentage of like white women dying of the same thing is damn near does not exist, because nurses take care of white women, doctors take care of Asian women, doctors do not take care of Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous. And Paul said, God forbid, let God be true, but every man a liar. What did God tell us? God told us to honor the physician. Honor the physician, to listen to what the doctor says. You should be looking and seeking out medical attention aggressively, like General Mahaiman taught me. If you have some kind of sickness, some kind of illness, you need to aggressively attack that illness. You need to get on the phone with 100 different doctors if you have to, until somebody takes you. You can look up today where doctors don't treat blacks simply because they were taught in med school that we have a higher pain tolerance. That we have such a high pain tolerance, we don't need medical attention. So why would the doctor tell you not to smoke cigarettes? Doctor's not going to tell you shit. He's not going to just advise you for no reason. It says Esau has a perpetual hatred towards blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous. So you need to be aggressive with finding out from your doctor what medical assistance you need, because God told you to honor the physician. Honor him. Honor the medicine, the herbs that were, put here on this earth to heal you. It says that the herbs are here for medicine. You know what I mean? So going to the doctor is a good thing. Getting medical advice is a good thing. Taking your medication is a good thing. Why? Because God told us to do that. Carolyn said you have to advocate for yourself with your health. You know what I mean? Absolutely. What we need to do is obey God. Honor the physician like he told us to. It's like, let God forbid, let God be true, but every man a liar. How else does this play out? You have somebody telling you that you should not honor the doctor. You have people like Dr. Sebi tell you you don't need to honor the physician. Think of how many people are YouTube podcasts and information is out on YouTube advising blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous to stay away from medicine, to stay away from the doctor. That's going against God. That's going against what the Most High told us. And we have to apply this knowledge to every part of our life. Okay, what's going on, Maria? Shalom, sis, Yahweh Shamar, Alatha, Bashim Shai, for water for tuning in. Shout out Nawar, my rib, Yahweh Shamar, Alatha, Bashim Shai. All right. We have to apply this knowledge to every part of our life. Every single part of our life. Let me grab the book of, let's go to Deuteronomy, chapter 16 and verse 6. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 6 says, but at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. This is knowledge from the Lord. This is wisdom of the Most High. If somebody is telling you to keep the Passover at home, they are going against what the Most High said. You see what I'm saying? Because the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God. You're not going to find a verse in the Bible that tells you to keep the Passover at your house. You might find, some verses in the Bible speaking on if you're unable to because of such a far journey, you might not be able to make it if that journey is too far. Now, I didn't know that they had airplanes 3,000 years ago where you could get, I'm in Canada right now. Let me see how long a flight is. Toronto to Houston. According to Google, it says to get on a flight from Toronto to Houston is 3 hours and 45 minutes. I get on a bus to see my rib. That bus ride is 7-8 hours. Take 7-8 hours sometime on a bus to go see my rib. That is, maybe a 2-hour drive by car. You're telling me I can get to Houston, Texas in under 4 hours? That's nothing. I used to go from Toronto to Florida, every couple months. That thing was like a 2-hour flight. Took me an hour to get from Florida to the JFK airport in New York, and then another 30 minutes from JFK to Toronto. That is not a long time. It may cost you a little money. So what should you do? What should you do to get to the Passover? You should do your best to plan. Be good at planning. Be good at budgeting. Be good at saving your money. As soon as we're done celebrating the Passover on April 4th, what's something you can do? Put $50 away every month. $50 away for every month. What's that? You're gonna come up with $600 by the end of the year. $550 by the time next year comes around. That's a good bit of money to buy yourself a plane ticket. $50 a month might mean, maybe you shouldn't spend that money on skip the dishes or your Uber Eats. Maybe you should take a walk one day to a store you're trying to get to. Maybe you shouldn't buy that coffee in the morning. Do some little things. That bottle of alcohol that costs you, $30. You're probably buying 2-3 of those bottles every week. Maybe buy one bottle for the week. But you should do your best to make it down to the Passover. Another thing you can do is ask your brothers and sisters for some help. You might find out that there's a person that lives right beside you that is driving down to Houston. You should focus on doing everything you can to make it down there. Why? Because the Lord said, but at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even. The Lord didn't put his name inside of your house. Shalom, shalom, kwayam. Yahba Shemer Shabrakatha. What's going on, priest? All right, mighty man, new trooper. Kwayam just got his Hebrew name. Shout out to that brother. Anybody telling you not to go to the place where the Lord has chosen to place his name, that is the wisdom of this world. Because that's not what God said. It's not what the Most High said. That's not what Moses told us to do. It's not what Christ told us to do. You need to go to the place where the Lord chose his name. And if you don't know where the Most High chose to place his name, that means you should find out. Because he said, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even. At the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And there's people out there in the world that are going to tell you that the nation of Israel was never in Egypt. So are you saying that God is a liar? Are you saying that the Most High is a liar? Are you saying that these records are not true? Black Hispanics and indigenous, we need knowledge to be stable in this time. That's the stability of these times, knowledge. You gain that knowledge by fearing the Most High. You show that you fear the Most High by obeying him, by your obedience, by keeping the Passover in the place he chose to put his name. And when you do that, you will begin to be wise. That's the beginning of wisdom. That's the beginning of knowledge. Let me drop that. And pull this up. See if I can zoom in a little bit. That's the beginning of wisdom. Fearing the Most High, obeying his laws, doing what it is he said. Making it to the Passover at all costs. That's the beginning of your wisdom. That's the beginning of stability. It's the beginning of you having the Most High's protection. When you said, let God be true and every man a liar, here's one of the examples of some proof. How many times people say that the nation of Israel didn't exist? This is called the Stele of Merneptah. The Stele of Merneptah. It was originally erected by King Amenhotep III in his mortuary temple on the west bank of Thebes. King Merneptah the 13th son of and successor of King Ramses II, refused or reused the back face of his gray granite stele. The round top of his face, topped by the winged sun disk and flanked by the cartouches of Merneptah, is divided into two parts. Each part shows King Merneptah before the god Amun-Re and followed by the other members of the Theban triad, the god Khonsu on the right and goddess Mut on the left. Under this scene, a hymn consists of 28 lines, commemorates Merneptah's victory over the Libyans in the 5th regional year. This is a picture of the stele right here. This is archaeology that people love to say we have to rely on over the Bible. They say that the Bible isn't real. The Bible isn't a historical record, of events that happened on this earth. Well, here's the archaeology that everybody loves to claim is what we need to rely on over the Bible. In the final strophe of the hymn, Merneptah mentions various entities that he had subdued. In the middle of line 27 of this text appears the name Israel inscribed in hieroglyphs. So everybody wants to say that Israel didn't exist. Israel was never in Egypt. The Exodus didn't exist. We need to rely on, archaeology. We need to rely on things outside of the Bible to prove that God is not lying, that God is not a liar, and that the Bible is true. Now, if the nation of Israel didn't exist, which a lot of these Kemetic people, the people who believe in Egypt so damn much, on their own stele, in the middle of line 27, the text appears the name Israel inscribed in hieroglyphs. It says, the name refers to the people and not to the state. Like other localities mentioned on the stele, the occurrence of this word indicate to some scholars that this king is the Pharaoh of the Exodus, but there is no evidence to prove that. They say there's no evidence to prove that. Let's jump to the book of Genesis. Genesis 46 and verse 1. It says, and Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spake unto Israel in the vision of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. Blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous, we got to rely on the Bible as the source of information for us. I'm sure there's 1,000,001 scholars that would love to say that Israel did not exist. There's also another 1,000,000 scholars that tell you that Israel did exist. We need to believe in God. Let God be true and every man a liar. Who cares what the world says? You know how old this book is, this Bible, these records? And these are the records of blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous. This is, what do they call it? Our story, our history. Who gives a damn what the Egyptians have to say about us? Who gives a damn what Romans say about us? Europeans, the people that enslaved us, the people that abused us, beat our backs, raped our women, put us in chains, and had us picking cotton for hundreds of years. Who gives a damn what they have to say about history? What's the Bible say? Consider the years of many generations. Pull that up. We go to the book of Deuteronomy 32 and 7. Moses told us to remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations, to ask thy father, and he will show thee. Want to know one of the most important things you learn from the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge? It's who you are, black man. Who you are, Hispanic and indigenous man. Because without the ISUPK, you would have no idea what nation of people you descend from. In 1980s, calling yourself, agree to call ourselves African American. Before the 1980s, calling ourselves Afro American. Before that, calling ourselves Negroes. You know what I mean? Calling ourselves every name but the children of Israel. Believing that we're Africans, that we're Hamitic. Without the ISUPK, you wouldn't know who your father is. How many times I go in the street and talk to brothers and sisters? One of the first questions I always ask a black man or Hispanic man is, where is your father from? What nationality is your father? And you wouldn't believe it's damn near, I almost want to say 40%. If I ask 10 black men what nationality is their father, 4 out of 10 of those brothers are going to say, I don't know who my father is. At least that's how it is in Toronto. Every time I ask a brother in Toronto, what nationality is your father? He says, I don't know who my father is. The other 2 or 3 out of that 10 say, I don't know who my grandfather is. You got 60, 70% of blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous. They don't even know where their grandfather comes from. Or they don't know where their dad comes from. They don't know who their dad is. And then you have some brothers that say he's African American. He's Caribbean. He's Jamaican. He's Trinidadian. He's Mexican. He's Puerto Rican. All of these are names that were given to us by our oppressor. The word Puerto Rican means rich port. The word Jamaican means land of wood and water. The word Haitian means land of hell. African American, you come from two different continents. You come from Africa and America. None of these are an identity of your nationality. In 2026, you're filling out a job application, ticking off that you are black. Your nationality is a color. You don't know who your father is. Moses told us to remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee. If you ask a Jewish man who is his father, he's going to tell you that my daddy's Jewish. And that same Jewish man, you ask him, where is your grandfather from? He's going to say, he's Russian. He's Polish. Because he knows where his father comes from. He knows where his grandfather comes from. He knows the history of his race of people. And if he asks his grandfather about his nationality, about his history and his culture, he's going to tell him. What's going on, Radapia? Yabashim and Shabrak a thumb for water for tuning in, brother. Sister Kala Yaquar, what's going on, sis? Yahweh Shamar Lathab Bashim Shai, for water for tuning in. One of the problems with blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous is we don't know who our fathers were. We don't know our nationality. So how could we ask? Moses told us, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. When you get in the ISUPK, one of the most valuable things that you are going to learn is who you were before slavery, who your ancestors are, where they come from, the language of our people. The UPK stands for Israelite School. We are a school. We are a non-for-profit organization committed to teaching, re-educating blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous. Because our people need knowledge. We need wisdom. We need stability in this unstable kingdom. We need the wisdom of who our father was. And our ancestors told us in Genesis, the 46th chapter, that our nation would go into Egypt. We just read that. Genesis 46, verses 1 through verse 4. Are you going to believe a white scholar, some European scholar that says Israel didn't exist? We have to be mindful of who we put our trust in. How many blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous grew up Christian? Grew up with a Bible on our shelf? And how many of us actually read the book? Paul said, let God be true and every man a liar. Let's go to Slovakia, close that. Let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 5, and verse 29. The book of Acts said, 5 and verse 29 said, Then Peter and other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey God rather than men. So you're going to believe a European scholar that said that the nation of Israel didn't exist? You're going to believe a brother who doesn't even know his nationality say that we should follow Egypt and that the nation of Israel never existed? A man that identifies as being black doesn't know his own identity. You're going to believe him over God? When God said that the children of Israel would go into Egypt? Peter and the other apostles said we ought to obey God rather than men. Let's share a video of, let me see where this is. Let's share a video on the tomb of Reckmeyer. Not sure if I'm saying the name right, nor do I care. Okay, because this is a tomb of an Egyptian pharaoh. And in this tomb, they got paintings of the slaves all over the walls. Paintings of what, some historians call bricklayers. That many historians would say was the nation of Israel inside of Egypt doing all the bricklaying under Pharaoh. I remember hearing Commanding General Yohanna saying he was in Egypt. He saw the paintings on the wall. Can't tell me that the slaves in Egypt were Caucasians. Can't tell me that blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous weren't inside of Egypt building up that quote unquote great nation. These right here. Slack for the noise, for that echo. These right here are paintings of black men inside of Egypt. Paintings of the bricklayers and the brick makers inside of Egypt. This is found in the tomb of Reckmeyer, who so many archaeologists would agree and say that these were the Israelites inside of Egypt. Now, I'm going to believe what God says. When I read the story of Moses freeing the children of Israel out of Egypt, I'm going to believe the stories that speak on the treasure cities that the Israelites built for the Egyptians. We got pyramids built all over the place down there in Egypt. Is that not archaeological proof of slaves building up a treasure city? I'm going to believe Moses over any European historian. I'm going to believe Moses over any brother saying that we should follow the Egyptians when he doesn't even know his nationality. This black man telling me that the Africans are the original man on earth. Because you're so starving for an identity that you just want to say that every African is a part of your family. You're Egyptian, you're Congolese, you're South African, you're a Canaanite, you're an Assyrian, you're you know, whatever tribe in Africa you want to claim to be, you want to claim them all because you believe you're African American. You believe in Africa, and Africa is the homeland and the motherland. When those people in Africa are barbecuing rat to this day, eating fly patties, and those are the people that you want to look up to. You want to take a bath from a cow's piss to bathe and wash your hair in because Africa is some great country. You want to be African so bad, go be African. You want to go eat monkey meat with Africans, go and do that. If you believe that's your nationality. Take on all the culture of Africa, please. But like it says in Joshua, as for me and my house, we are going to Houston to eat some lamb. That's what we're doing. Because we got in the ISUPK and found out who our ancestors were. And we began in this house to gain some knowledge, to stop eating pork, to stop eating shrimp, to stop celebrating birthdays, to stop killing ourselves. Which is exactly what the ISUPK is going to teach you to do. It's going to teach you how to live. Because these laws, statutes, and commandments give us life. These laws, statutes, and commandments tell you you cannot smoke cigarettes. You cannot be a drug addict. You cannot kill yourself. You have to love yourself. That's what these laws are for. Not just loving yourself, but loving your brothers. Now that you stop smoking cigarettes and stop being a drug addict, you can't sell drugs to your people. You can't sell cigarettes to your people. You can't make them a pork sandwich and give it to them to eat, because you would be hurting your brother. These laws give us life. It's important to know who you are and where you come from. Because this nation of people has a covenant with the Most High. This nation of people who chose to disobey the Most High went into slavery. Over and over. Let me finish this video. You see this right here? That's you, black man, on the walls in Egypt. That's you, Hispanic man, indigenous man. Because there was a time when you were a slave to the Egyptians. You could go get on a plane and fly to Egypt. Go inside this tomb right here and see yourself, see your ancestors painted on the walls. Let me drop this. And go to the book of Exodus chapter 1. Let me start at verse 6. This is Exodus 1 and verse 6. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them. So what the Most High said, what did our ancestors say? There was a time we were inside of Egypt. There was a time when blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous, we were multiplying exceedingly. I don't know about you, black man, but I see blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous today. Shoot, I got an uncle. He's at like 33 kids. That man has a child by 33 different women. He is out there getting busy. 2026. I can see this. I can see my people. How many wives these brothers have. How many children that these brothers are making. Children of Israel were fruitful. That's the spirit of my people. And we see it today. We're fruitful. It was just last year, I think last year, blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous are officially changing the fabric of the American population, the American society, where they are no longer the minority. Blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous, we are now the majority because white people are not making babies. But that black man that you love to say, that no good deadbeat black father that has produced 10 different babies, society wants to look down on him and tell him he needs to wrap it up. Brother, if you are having children, you are getting a gift from God, a gift of the Lord. Children are a beautiful thing. And Europeans, I think they're having like 0.5 children per household. They are not repopulating this earth. Europeans are too busy with their LGBTQ movement to make any babies, because two men do not create a family. Two women do not make babies. That's Roman culture. Black culture, we make babies. And it's a beautiful thing, and we should continue to do that. We should never abort our babies. Imagine the army that Blacks, Hispanics, and Indigenous would have if we didn't abort our babies. We would outnumber these devils like no tomorrow. There would be no more George Floyds. There would be no more Trayvon Martins. There would be no more Breonna Taylors if we just stopped aborting our babies. If we just listened to the wisdom of the Most High. Because the wisdom of this world would tell you two men can start a family. That a child can have two daddies. That's the wisdom of this world. It is foolish. It is idiotic. And at this time it said, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied. You think those nasty Egyptians weren't LGBTQ? According to archaeology, it says those Egyptians were the creators of two daddies and two mommies. It is in all of Kemetic history and Kemetic archaeology just how sweet, just how LGBTQ they are. And to them, it is not a bad thing. It's not wrong for a man to put his rod in another man's mouth. Go look up the archaeology of Geb. Every time you see a black man with an ankh around their neck, that symbolizes a penis and a vagina. And you walk around in 2026 with two nuts hanging around your neck, and you think that is not gay, you have lost your mind. That's what the Egyptians do. The children of Israel, we were fruitful, and we increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding and mighty, and the land was filled with them. We were growing as a nation because we were having babies. In verse 8, now there arose up a king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. Joseph became a great man inside of Egypt. Joseph did great things for the nation of Egypt. He advised Pharaoh of so many different things on how to be prosperous. He advised Pharaoh and helped Egypt grow and be a strong nation. And then there was a time where a new Pharaoh, a new king, rose up over Egypt, and he didn't know who Joseph was. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Because we were getting mighty. So I commanded General Yohana strongly advises no black, Hispanic, indigenous man or woman to ever abort your baby. That is the wisdom of this world. To kill, to unalive your child. It is foolish to be so cold-hearted to end your own child's life. It is so cruel and it is so evil. The ISUPK would advise none of us to follow the ways of our oppressor so that we could grow and be mighty, just like we did at this time. Verse 10 says, come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies. You want to know what our oppressor would terrify our oppressor? If we just stopped aborting our babies. Not only if we stopped aborting our babies, but could you imagine if we joined Russia? We joined China? Could you imagine if blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous stopped joining America's army? We stopped aborting our babies and we joined Russia. That would terrify America. You see today that whites are becoming the minority. They are not multiplying. This is the wisdom of the Most High. It says, they fight against us and so get them up out of the land. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. And what we just saw was a video of blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous being carved in the walls in one of the Pharaoh's tombs of us being slaves in Egypt. This is real history. Let me pull this up. This is called the Berlin Pedestal. Is this the earliest mention of Israel? Question mark. The Merneptah Stele, also known as the Israel Stele, is well known for containing the earliest mention of the word Israel, dated around 1207 BCE. Actually, that's not entirely accurate. So what did we read earlier? We read what the Merneptah Stele was and how it mentioned Israel in the 27th line of its hymn. And there was a time that it was taught that that was the earliest mention of the nation of Israel that these Kemetic people would love to say did not exist. That so many people today that claim to be atheist say that there is no God, say that these records, this Bible is trash, that the Exodus wasn't real, that the nation of Israel didn't exist. Not only did the Merneptah Stele speak about us, we have more archaeological evidence. It's the earliest undisputed artifact containing the word Israel. There is another piece that may date up to 2 centuries earlier. Only this one is fragmentary and is still technically classed as disputed. The Berlin pedestal is a stone inscription acquired by Egyptologist Ludwig Borchardt from an Egyptian merchant in 1913. The piece, roughly 40 by 45 centimeters, was probably part of a pedestal base. While the inscribed face is broken off at its edges, a sizable amount of the imagery is preserved. 3 captives are displayed, tied together at the neck, and depicted in the classic Egyptian West Asiatic form, a general depiction of Middle Easterners. Each prisoner has a corresponding name ring, labeling the country of origin for the prisoner in hieroglyphic script. This is the stele right here. The first ring on the left clearly reads Ashkelon, referring to the coastal city generally occupied by the Philistines as part of their pentapolis. The middle ring clearly reads Canaan. The broken name ring on the right is the one in question. There has been some debate as to what the missing hieroglyphic letter in the upper right-hand portion of the ring is. So there was some time where, as you can see on the right, that right ring was partially cut off. Okay? You look at it right here, you see the right side of this ring, the right side of this stele is partially cut off. Okay? So we're going to jump down. Because what we have now is they use some computer AI to help generate or reconstruct this stele. And this is what they came up with right here. This is the Berlin pedestal showing a reconstruction of the vulture hieroglyph. Note the beak and the claw, as well as the natural breaking around the shape of the vulture's body. Remember that scripture that said the earth shall help the woman? Because the earth shall help the nation of Israel. This is the question. Could it be Israel? With the vulture motif, the pure translation of this name ring is I3S3IR. This name is unique. It is not known in this form on any topographical lists. However, there is a real complexity to Egyptian spelling. The same hieroglyphs can sometimes represent entirely different sounds. R is also used to represent the sound L, As a modern example, many Chinese speakers confuse the sounds R and L. Example, the city Rome/Roma, translated Luoma. Due to their form in the word, the final hieroglyphs are best translated as an L sound. Read that one more time. Due to their form in the word, the final hieroglyphs are best translated as an L sound. In representation of the Hebrew theroporic L, a glottal stop with no English equivalent can also be interchangeably translated as either R or L. Based on this, Gorg, as well as later researchers, Dr. Peter van der Veen and Dr. Christopher Theus, concluded that the hieroglyphic name is best translated as Israel. Take a seat. The name then becomes clearly evident as Israel. The name then becomes clearly evident as Israel. This is the Berlin pedestal. One of the strongest proofs that this is the correct and most logical translation is simply the other two names on the pedestal, Ashkelon and Canaan. Shemai. Breathe. One of the strongest proofs that this is the correct and most logical translation is simply the other two names on the pedestal, Ashkelon and Canaan. Both of these territories are in the same general proximity within the promised land. Thus, Israel is by far the best fit, and the Merneptah Stele provides further corroboration for this reading. What did we read earlier? We read the Merneptah Stele. That's what we looked at earlier. It was dated around 1207 BCE. This right here is dated even earlier. And it clearly is evident that that third ring is Israel. Toward the end of this stele, we read the following. This is what this stele reads. Canaan has been plundered into every sort of woe. Ashkelon has been overcome. Gezer has been captured. Yenoam is made non-existent. Israel is laid waste, and his seed is not. What does that stele say? Israel is laid waste, and his seed is not. Because blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous, we make babies. Our seed was not laid waste. Exodus 1:10 says, "Come and let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply." That's what you do, black man, Hispanic man, indigenous man. You multiply. And we got to follow the wisdom of this Bible. We got to follow what our fathers said. We got to find out who we are, who we descend from. Because when you do that, you're going to learn that your ancestors were Jeremiah. Your forefather was Isaiah, Ezekiel. You understand? Solomon, David, Moses, all these brothers, Ruth, these sisters, these are our ancestors. And in our history book, it said, we multiplied. And archaeology says we multiplied. Verse 11, therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And that's what we saw inside of that tomb. We saw Israelites as the slaves in Egypt, where we had taskmasters afflicting us. It's the same thing that goes on here inside of America, where you say, you look at your boss and you're scared to tell your boss you don't want to work overtime today. You're scared to tell your boss that you cannot take any time off to go and serve the Lord. You can't take off to go and get to the Passover. You're scared to tell your boss that. Why? Because Pharaoh set taskmasters over us to watch us, to keep us busy, to afflict us, to micromanage us, to look at us and say, you know, I saw you come in a minute late today. You're supposed to start at 7. It's 7:01. Your lunch break is 10 minutes. I noticed you didn't make it back to your desk at 10:10. You made it back to your desk at 10:11. God forbid. God forbid you had to go pee and go to the bathroom. You should have did that at the start of your break. It's 2:59 and you're supposed to end your shift at 3 o'clock. Oh, guys, today we're going to need some overtime. Wondering who can stay late today. You're scared to tell your boss no. Because how the hell are you going to pay your rent if you lose this job? Where are you going to get money to eat if you lose this job? If you don't stay an extra hour, if you don't stay an extra 2 hours. These are burdens. These are absolute burdens. I went to college for business. One of the things I learned in business was micro and macroeconomics. And I started to learn about price elasticity. And I started to learn that these devils, these oppressors that are over us, they will change the price of things based off of how much money you have. Because your oppressor knows you have to pay rent. Your oppressor knows you have to buy food. Your oppressor knows that you do not have to buy popcorn at the movie theater. And if the average person is making $30,000 a year, you know what that means? We can put rent prices up. We can change the price of land. We can change the price of rent. We can change the price of food because your dumbass has no choice. You're going to pay rent. You're going to pay for food. Your oppressor knows that you can go without popcorn. And he is going to look at how much you make and say, you know what? I noticed that these people have $100 a month to spend on their cell phone. I'm going to raise the price of a cell phone from $40 to $80 because they can afford that. I noticed that everybody can afford to pay $100 a month for their internet. We're going to raise the price of internet from $40 to $100 because it fits their budget. That's called microeconomics. And your oppressor is studying your every movement. He is studying how much money you make, and he is going to afflict you with burdens. I'm going to hold this and go to Deuteronomy 28 and 48. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28. And verse 48. It says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous, we do not own our own water purification plants. We don't have all the farms in North America. We don't have our own textile mills. We don't make our own clothes. Even if you wanted to make your own shirt, you got to buy fabric. And you get that from your oppressor. And your oppressor knows the cost of these things. I thought it was crazy that your oppressor afflicts you so badly that he copyrights, or not copyrights, he patents seeds. You are not allowed to plant your own seeds. That is illegal in some places in North America. You cannot buy an apple from the grocery store, plant your own seeds from that apple, because those seeds belong to a company. That's affliction. That is a burden. This is how Pharaoh afflicts us. You think I'm lying? Look that up. You can't even plant a damn seed to grow food. Try it. Your oppressor will take you to court and take your house from you, your car from you. He'll take your wife from you. He will take everything that you own and throw you in jail after doing it. Because the seeds belong to him. This is why the Passover is so important to make it down to. because instead of celebrating Easter, where we run around and chase some goddamn chocolate egg around the house, that's what your pastor would have you do. You're going to go to church and they're going to put some chocolate eggs all throughout the building, and you're going to spend your Sunday looking for chocolate. That's what your pastor is teaching you to do. In the ISUPK, we're going to Houston, Texas to remember the slaughter of the Egyptians. We're going to remember when the Most High unalived the firstborn of every Egyptian so that blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous could be free. Freedom is not going to your oppressor in want of all things, in hunger, in thirst, and in nakedness, where blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous could have their own farms, could have their own water plants, where we don't have to drink all the water that's filled with chemicals, with chlorine and acid and whatever chemicals they use to clean the drinking water. We'll have our own water plants. We'll have our own textile mills. We'll have our own malls where you can go, our own markets where you can go and buy things that are for us and by us. That's freedom. That's what Commanding General Yohana would have blacks, indigenous, and Hispanics celebrate. Not no goddamn Easter egg, but to remember the Most High freeing us from our captivity. The Most High freeing us from our burdens. To free us from our taskmasters. Exodus 1:11 says, therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities. And that's exactly what we did in America. We built America up. We built treasure cities. We built Hollywood. We built Miami, South Beach. We built New York City. That's what we did. We built our enemy. We built our oppressors' treasure cities. That's what we spend our time doing, building up Esau's kingdom. Now, when the Most High said, wisdom will be the stability of thy times, imagine if you focused on your freedom from America, your freedom from these taskmasters. Do you know how much stability that gives a black, Hispanic, and indigenous man? Do you know how defeated the North American Indians feel today on those reservations? Having to watch indigenous or First Nations people damn near go extinct from Europeans. Indigenous were almost extinct because Europeans came over to North America and eradicated them. Do you know how defeating that is? And do you know how unstable that would leave a man to be, to know that he couldn't defend his loved ones? That the First Nation man couldn't defend all the people, all the family members that he had, that the black man had to watch over 100 million of his people not even make it to America because his oppressor was such a devil, because his oppressor was so good at killing, that we had to watch mass genocide on our people. That's very debilitating to a man. A man was created to defend. A man was created to protect. And our oppressor would buck break us in front of our loved ones to continually mock us, to continually show that we have no power, to continually effeminate us, demoralize us, emasculate us, and show us that we have no power against him. Easter is not going to give the black man his power back. Pasting chocolate eggs inside a church is not going to give the Hispanic man his power back. But you go down to Houston, Texas, April 4th. You're going to look at the Lord's army. You're going to see brothers who are not unstable. You're going to see brothers praying for the destruction of his enemies, praying for the Most High to save us from this captivity. That's a beautiful thing, where we would no longer have to be burdened by these taskmasters, where we would no longer have to focus on building Pharaoh his treasure cities. Verse 12 says, "But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew." And it's crazy watching blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous be brought to a point of extinction to still multiply and grow inside of America. You unalive 100 million blacks and over 77 million indigenous. And here we are in 2026, still growing. You push abortion clinics in every ghetto and reservation inside of North and South Central America, and we still grow as a nation. That is an absolute miracle. It says, "But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel." You know how much of a grievance it is to Europeans inside of America that we continue to grow? It grieves them. I remember interviewing a European, and I was asking him about what they thought of what Canada, the Canadian government, did to the First Nations people. And he looked at me in the eyes and said, "We were really good at killing. That we did an amazing job eradicating the First Nations people." And he was so proud when he said it. Like, this is my history. This is what my forefathers did. You know how proud a white boy is to say that we committed mass genocide on the First Nations people. He's so proud of what his ancestors did. You did such a good job. How come we're still growing in number? You obviously didn't do a good enough job. Because one brother and a couple women, one Hispanic man and a couple women, they are going to make babies. You should have killed us all. That's what Europeans should have done. You should have made the children of Israel extinct. You see what Noah did? Noah and his 3 sons, they repopulated the whole earth. Verse 13 says, and the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. I remember watching a video of a sister speak on how rigorous they made the slaves work inside of America. They made us work with such rigor that our muscles would tear, the muscle ligaments would tear off of our bones from overexertion, from overexerting ourselves. That's rigor. Verse 14, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick. Didn't we see inside that tomb? We saw us making bricks all over the walls of Egypt. Take a seat. All over the walls of Egypt, we were making bricks because the Bible is real. The Bible is real history. Archaeology proves it. Archaeology has consistently, again and again, proven the Bible to be real. You think it's a fairy tale because of what your pastor taught. Your pastor taught you that a snake was walking around talking to a woman, convincing her to disobey her God. That's what your pastor taught you. Commanding General Yohana, a real prophet of God, he simply told you that was a metaphor, young man. You haven't heard of a metaphor before? You haven't heard of an analogy, a simile? You haven't seen how blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous men speak? How Christ spoke in parables? That everything isn't literal? Your pastor thinks that snakes talk. Have full-out conversations with people. And he's trying to explain that to a 13-year-old child, how this is real. Maybe it was just a metaphor, young man. Let me go to the book of Revelations. above. Gonna go to the book of Revelations. In 11 and verse 8. This is something that our pastors didn't teach us. Let me start at Revelations chapter 1 and verse 1. The book of Revelations, revelation means to reveal. Revelations 1 and 1 says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. So what is the book of Revelations? The book of Revelations is a compilation of things that were being shown to Christ's servants. Tell me what pastor taught you this. These were things that were going to be revealed and things that were shortly going to come to pass, which means these are prophecies. These are things that haven't happened yet. That's what's in the book of Revelations. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. So he showed an angel to show one of his servants, John, things that were going to come to pass. Verse 2, who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Yahushua and of all things that he saw. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. So the book of Revelations is a book of prophecy. It's a prophetic book. Things that were shown to Yahweh's servants. I'm going to jump back to Revelations chapter 11 and verse 8. It says, and their bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. This was a prophecy. This was something that was going to happen, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So John saw something that was shown to him by an angel, that there would be a time where dead bodies would lie in a great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Was Yahushua not crucified by the Romans under Pontius Pilate? Archaeology tells you that. We can look at sources outside the Bible that speaks of a man being pierced multiple times under Pontius Pilate. There is so much archaeology saying or speaking on this man that walked the earth, Yahushua, who the world knows as Jesus Christ. Everybody knows that this man existed. Let God be true and every man a liar. Don't let anybody tell you Christ wasn't real. Don't let anybody tell you that Israel didn't exist. Don't let anybody tell you that we weren't slaves inside of Egypt. There is so much archaeology telling you that it happened. It's all over the earth. And in this place, it was called Sodom and Egypt. Spiritually. It's not literally Sodom, and it's not literally Egypt. It's a place that was spiritually Sodom and Egypt. What is Sodom known for? You disgusting sodomites are known for being LGBTQ. You just taught my son who's in kindergarten 2 weeks ago that a family can have two daddies. Lying to a 6-year-old boy. This place is Sodom. All over their school, they had Pride Month and rainbow this and rainbow that. This place is Sodom. This place is so obsessed with sodomy. Everywhere. Man has to be with a man and a woman has to be with a woman. That is why you don't produce shit. You're not making babies. You can't tell me this place isn't spiritually Sodom. And spiritually Egypt. That word Egypt is a Greek word for bondage. You put blacks enslaved, you put Hispanics enslaved, you put First Nations enslaved for hundreds of years. You had us in slavery in Rome. You have us in slavery now inside of America, where these taskmasters burden us so heavily. This place is a place of bondage. And America is so proud of it, they put pyramids on their dollar bill. They got Egyptian sculptures all over Washington, D.C., all over America. This place wants to be Egypt so bad. Because this is a place that is spiritually Egypt, not literally. And John saw this. The servants of Yahushua saw this, that this would come to pass. And in 2026, we're living it. Get to the Lord's Passover. Because in this place that is spiritually Egypt, we need salvation from. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 16 and 14. And then we'll end the class. End the class there. This is what our ancestor Jeremiah said. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. This is a prophecy that there is going to be a day where the Most High will not be known as the power that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, because we know the Most High and what he did to those Egyptians, especially if you're in the ISUPK. We celebrate the Passover every year, and we remember when the Most High took us out of Egypt. We remember every year when the Most High slaughtered the Egyptians so that we could be free. That's why the Lord commanded us to keep the Passover. The Passover is the most important high holy day that you can be at. The Passover is not something you should ever miss. It's so important that we remember the power of the Israelites and how strong of a power he is. How easy it was for him to destroy the Egyptians. Because there's a day coming where we are no longer going to know him as this power. Verse 15 says, "But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north." Where is the land of the north? We are living in that place today. North America. North and South Central America. This is the land of the north. And from all the lands whither he had driven them, because he scattered us throughout the earth for disobeying him. You have blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous who live in Japan, who live in Vietnam, who live in China, who live in Iraq, who live in Dimona, Israel, who live in Shamanase, Ethiopia, who live in all the Caribbean islands, who live all throughout the UK, and mainly in the land of the north, the land of our captivity. We're going to know the Most High as the power that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of the north. And we're going to the Passover to look forward to this day, because we have an exodus coming out of this place. Make it to the Lord's Passover, April 4th. Do not miss it. Deuteronomy 16, where the Lord placed his name. Do not miss the Passover. That is a commandment from God, and it is the most important thing that we can look forward to, where we no longer have to be oppressed by our taskmasters, where we no longer have to be afflicted with all these burdens, where we don't have to look to our oppressor in want of thirst and nakedness and hunger and in want of all things, but we could get that land, that promised land, flowing of milk and honey, where we could one day be free and receive that promise that was given to our forefather Abraham. Be at the Lord's Passover. Don't miss it. Thawada for everybody tuning in. Like, share, subscribe to the class. Okay, share this class. Get it out to our people. If you need any help making it down to the Lord's Passover, make sure you call for counsel. Call your camp leader. Figure out how to get there, because this is the single most greatest event that you could be at every single year. This year in Houston, Texas, where the Lord placed his name, which is the ISUPK, under Commanding General Yohana, where this truth was born and brought back into the earth. The Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. You would not know who your forefathers were if it was not for the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. And nobody out there can argue that or prove that to be wrong. Get in the ISUPK, the home of the truth. All camps are commanded to come back together. Not all this break-off bullshit. Get to the ISUPK. Blacks, Hispanics, and indigenous, you are all invited down there. Be there. It is a commandment from God. Lord allow I see you all there. All right. With that, I say shalom.
Hey, listen, brothers and sisters, man, if you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button, man. Subscribe to this channel. And also, please go to isupk.com and pay your tithe. Drop me some cash so we can move around this planet like we need to, man, and do the things we need to do.
They're one West. They're one West. They're one West. They're